Welcome to Backyard Family Fun, the podcast from Pride Pool Spas and Leisure Products in Claxton and Savannah, Georgia. Celebrating 50 years serving our community, this family-owned business has spent decades helping create memories that last a lifetime. Whether you're a pool owner, a spa lover, or just looking to turn your outdoor space into a true retreat, we've got you covered right here on the Backyard Family Fun podcast. And as a crazy awesome deal for our Backyard Family Fun podcast fans, you get 10% off anything inside either location in Claxton and Savannah, excluding pools, hot tubs, or saunas when you mention the podcast. That's all you have to do. Go and visit the Claxton or Savannah Pride pools, mention the podcast, and get 10% off. Now that's a reason to celebrate. Welcome back to Backyard Family Fun. I'm Dee Daniels, and we are in the Savannah location of Pride Pool Spas and Leisure Products. We love being here, and we're here with Marshall Smith to have another great conversation. Marshall, always a good time to sit down and talk to you, especially when it's getting nice and warm outside.
Perfect. Absolutely. And I always look forward to this time, and the weather doesn't hurt. So I'm excited about these 80-degree temperatures as well, Dee. So
Absolutely.
I'm looking forward to today and chatting it up a little bit.
Yeah, we're actually going to be doing a part 2 of the conversation we started with tips to get your pool ready, and it was there's so much to talk about. We had to extend it into a second part.
We did, and so we were talking earlier off script here about some of the things we find important for somebody's pool or spa. It's kind of like the human body, it still needs that annual checkup. And so, we were talking about that a little bit, and we're going to talk more about that. But yeah, it is, when you get into that, you realize there's more information, and it takes maybe a part 2 here. So that's where we're at.
Absolutely. Yeah. So let's kind of recap a little bit from part 1, because last time we talked about, cleaning and rotating sand and cartridge filters. Talk a little bit about, for the first time listener, what that means, and then maybe the next step after that, after the filter is prepped.
Yep, that's right. So to recap, the sand, and what we'll say to that, I don't want our listeners to be confused when you said sand and cartridges rotated. We're rotating cartridges, but we're changing or cleaning sand.
Yes.
So just we'll clarify that. So that was just a run on words. Maybe it ran together. But just for clarity, make sure everybody understands that what we're trying to do with the sand is clean it and or change the sand depending on the age of the sand. So that's huge. That's a big deal. That can dictate and set the tone for your whole season. The filter media is the vital part. Well, let's back up. There's several vital parts, but your filter media is probably, I'd say, number 1 or number 2 when it comes to the well-being and health of the water that's in your pool or spa. So sand is changed and or cleaned, and then the filters, we're going to rotate those. There you go. So what we're doing is that if we are, whether it's a pool or a spa, we want to rotate those. We want to have either 2 or 3 on hand at all times, because what we want to do is never have any downtime, and to create that environment without any downtime is to have multiple cartridge filters on hand so you can rotate them. So, and by doing that, guess what? You're going to get longevity out of those filters as well. So you take it out, you clean it, you put a fresh one in, and then you just rotate that. When it's time to have that filter clean, you pull it out, you take the one you cleaned 6 months ago or 2 months ago or 3 weeks ago or whatever the case is, whatever your scenario is, and you put it in. You just rotate them. So they last much longer, and they give you a more optimal environment when it comes to filtration for the pool or spa. Yeah. So again, as a recap, sand is either cleaned or changed depending on the age of it, and filters are rotated. And then obviously those filters do need to be changed over time, but those can be cleaned and rotated for anywhere from 2 to 3 years, and then you're going to need to replace them over time.
That was going to be my next question.
That's right.
I can walk in and just say, hey, I've been using these filters. Should I go ahead and replace these?
That's right. Yep.
And you can tell me that based on what they look like, how long
right.
they've been in there,
That's right.
how long I've been rotating.
I think the theory, I don't like to really use the HVAC, air filter theory, because typically once that air filter is dirty, you replace it, right? These are more durable. In this environment, they're stronger, they're more durable. The filter media, the pleats that are in the filter are designed to be multi-use, or in other words, you're getting more than just one use out of them.
Right.
So, however, I guess the theory is the same. You're using a filter media to filter the air with your HVAC unit, but you're also doing it with the water. Again, in that environment, going to be a stronger, more durable filter. So, yeah, I think that when somebody says, I've had it for 18 months, 2 years, whatever, you're probably on the threshold of replacement. I think bather load, obviously, again, when we talk about pools or spas, they're all are snowflakes, because they're all are different. There's none the same, no matter what, because of the water source, because of the bather load, because of a host of things that create a different dynamic than what the neighbor's backyard looks like compared to yours. You may have identical looks, and you may have the same body of water as far as volume, but you have different trees than they have. You have 10 people that are in the household, they have 2. Your bather loads are different. So everything, that dynamic has an impact on what you do to your pool and spa.
Yeah, that makes me think too of near our pool, we've got these beautiful trees that, the wind blows, and all of a sudden we have these little tiny pink, beautiful flowers
Little
that
blooms,
are floating in the pool for a
Yep.
certain amount of time. And that only happens right there.
That's right.
So it's what's being filtered and what's being cleaned and going into the skimmer and all kinds of things, way different than the pool next door.
That's absolutely correct. And so, again, hence, all pools, any body of water that's being filtered, that's a pool or spa, we classify it as, they're all snowflakes. They are different. They are different because of just what you just mentioned. And again, I think what people don't understand is bather load has a big, or probably one of the biggest impacts when it comes to water quality. Because, again, there may be still small children at home next door, whereas it's an older family next door. Maybe the bather load is half.
Yeah.
And that creates a different dynamic for the water. So we have to take all those things into consideration. And that's part of what we do to try to make sure we understand what the needs and wants are for our customers, because we want to make sure that we can serve whatever needs may be due to the heavy bather loads, and we can give advice based on that. So, whatever the case is. So again, backyard family fun is achieved with good product knowledge and good, interaction and understanding what that space needs to have healthy water. So there you go.
Yeah. And everybody's unique, like you said, and that feels really good to be able to have that really, specifically geared towards your needs and your pool and your lifestyle and, what's going on for your fun in your backyard.
Our water analysis allows us to kind of customize and prescribe something specific for your needs, as opposed to just, having a gunshot approach.
Yeah. One size does not fit all.
That's right. That's right.
For sure.
Exactly.
So let's talk about some of these other tips to get your pool ready, including now that the filter is ready. How does that affect the water balance?
A huge impact, because if we're getting rid of the impurities, we're getting rid of the contaminants that have either contaminated the sand over the winter, whatever. We get rid of that by either cleaning the sand and or replacing the sand. Now what we're doing is that the pump is more efficient. It's operating, that water's flowing over the sand better. It's filtering better, and your chemicals are actually working easier, and they're more efficient that way, because now they're not fighting against some of those unwanted contaminants that may be in the sand. So efficiency is one of them. And then, which again translates into lesser energy consumption, which means a smaller power bill.
Yeah.
As simple as that may sound, when you've got everything optimized, again, we're being proactive for that backyard environment. So what we want to do is make sure that the pumps, the filter, those medias are doing their job as easy as possible, so it's less consumption from an energy source and or from a chemical consumption. So yes, that's what you're going to find. Once you're creating a better environment by either replacing or cleaning the media, the filter media for your pool or spa, everything's going to be more optimal in their operation.
Right. Yeah. That makes a lot of sense. On the topic of water chemistry and what's going on with the water balance, once we open the pool, how often should we be testing the water then?
Great question. Couple things. The rule of thumb is every 4 to 6 weeks that we are testing, whether it be, through our lab or whatever. That's what our recommendation is. If you're not, for whatever reason, don't adhere to that, anywhere from 6 to 8 weeks would be the maximum time frame on that. So we're given the opportunity to capture when it's most important, meaning when the pool can be, or the spa can be most volatile based on temperature. And so once that temperature goes up, water temperatures go up. As that happens, the water is a little more unstable, and so we got to keep it more in check. And so the more often we check it, the better off you're going to be, the healthier the pool will be or the spa will be. So consistency is important, but 4 to 6 weeks, if not 6 to 8 at the most, is what we would recommend from us testing the water through our lab. But we would encourage homeowners that if they're doing the DIY thing, test it probably every week with a strip, and we have those test strips available. You can test at home if you want to do it once a week, once every couple of weeks. pH, sanitizer levels, those are crucial. So yeah, from a timing perspective, that 3-4 month window when it's the hottest is important. The more you do it, the better off you are. But the rule of thumb, 4 to 6 weeks, 6 to 8 max is what I'd recommend.
Well, I got to tell you, Marshall, I love the fact that you can just put it in and bring it here and say, do all your magic to it, because then I don't have to worry about
That's right.
But that's just me. And I know a lot of people want to do that DIY. A lot of people want to drop it off.
Sure. And when we embrace it all. So we look at it as if an individual wants to take the time to be the arbiter of their backyard, that's awesome. Yeah. And that's what we want to see. But let lean on us for the advice, the things that you need to keep that space looking healthy and fun and all the above. So yeah, what we're trying to do is make sure we're making sure consumers know if you want to DIY it, if you want us to do it, whatever the case is, we're here to make that space hum.
Exactly.
So we want it to hum. Yeah. So, you mentioned the water bringing it to us. So I want to point out, and I think we talk about this on multiple occasions in some of our other podcasts, but water analysis is important in a proper vessel, meaning whatever you're going to do when you bring us a sample of water, it needs to be in a clean environment. We don't want to just grab the pickle jar.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? We don't want excuse me, we don't want to grab that Coca-Cola bottle we drank or that Diet Coke and then grab that bottle and go stick it in the water. Because we want something that's a clean environment. So we recommend, if you don't have a personalized, customized bottle or bag from us that we provide for you, if you come to us, we can give you your own sample bottle. If you don't have that, grab that quart size Ziploc bag that's never been used, grab it out of the drawer, and let's grab that sample and put it into something clean. That way it'll give us a much more accurate result from the testing that we do, as opposed to it being, again, in that pickle jar that's got a lot of maybe acid in it, or, maybe it's very acidic water had been in it. But yeah, let's clean environments, so we can get a good accurate test.
Absolutely. Yeah. I learned that the hard way when they found Dr. Pepper in my analysis at one time.
That's right. Busted.
Exactly. Won't do that again. Let's talk a little bit about, we're talking about tips to get your pool ready, and for it to really be what you really want is, cannonball ready,
That's right.
for the kids to come in and do
Absolutely.
what they want to do. Let's talk a little bit about equipment, because I really think, folks are kind of looking at this as, hey, I do want all of the things to be ready. So, when you're looking at equipment, why is it important to really inspect, the seals and the valves and the hoses at the start of the season?
Well, like we talked about earlier, is you want to have a clean, healthy environment, and you want to get the season kicked off on the right foot. So all those things can have an impact on efficiency. So you want a pool pump that's not leaking. You want hoses and or plumbing that's not leaking. You want those inspected. You want to make sure that the valves are not leaking and they're functioning, especially if they are valves that are automated valves. If they're automated valves, you want them to make sure they are turning and closing, opening and shutting, and doing all the things they need to do. So to get that kind of like that early season spring analysis is important, because again, it's all about efficiency. Again, you've got a backyard that you want a pool that's operating optimally, so that you're having to put less money into it.
Yeah.
That's what it's all about for us, because the less you have to spend on your pool, the happier you are.
Yes.
And hopefully the more you come back to get that advice and get the things you need to do to make that space efficient. So very similar to the filter media, we want to treat the water the same way from a leaking perspective. That's one of the biggest reasons, because if you're losing water, you're having to add water, right? If it's going out the wrong places. So that, as you are losing water, if you're having to add water more than you should, more than you really want to, it constantly changes that dynamic of your water. So, you want to minimize that. And that's probably one of the biggest reasons why. Again, we don't want to waste the water. We want to keep it in the pool. So if we've got a leak, let's address it. If you've got valves that are not operating properly, let's take a look at that. Let's make sure we don't have any leaks in those areas as well. So it's about efficiency. It's about making sure that it's supporting the body of water to its optimal and just clean and efficiency. That's what it boils down to.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And, walk me through a little bit of the process too, if I suspect that I have a leak. And, what's kind of first thing I should really do?
Well, okay. Depends on the body or the vessel that we're talking about. If it's a gunite pool, a vinyl liner pool, if it's a fiberglass pool, or if it's a spa, what you want to do basically from a DIY point of view, if you think you're losing water, we give you a couple of tips. You can just kind of mark a couple little spots in the area, like around the skimmer or whatever, and then we'll wait and we'll see over a certain amount of time, is that water dropping? If it is, obviously, we're talking about basic fundamental things here and how to understand if there's a leak or not. And sometimes you can walk over to your filtration system and just stand there and look and say, oh, I see water. And you can make that quick determination really quick and easy and saying, oh, and I can see where it's coming from.
Right.
Those are one thing. And then sometimes you're right. There may be a leak and you can't tell because you're over at the filtration system and everything's dry and you don't see any water. So then that's when it's to do maybe make a little mark, a little piece of tape or something, just basic fundamental things that'll give you an opportunity to say, okay, let's test this water to see if it's dropping. And then we'll say, okay, after 24 hours, how far? 36 hours. And then also dictates what's the temperature? What's the ambient temperature? You can lose water due to evaporation a lot of times. And so if we're early spring and it's losing a half an inch of water a day, we've got a leak for sure.
Right.
Or even in a 48-hour period, if it's losing a half an inch this time of year, that would be very unusual. So again, those are those quick analysis you can do at home, and then you can say, hey, pick up the phone, give us our service department a call. We're glad to schedule something, come out, check in for a leak detection, or if it's a dive or whatever we need to do to assess it. But there are easy do-it-yourself ways to determine if you've got a leak or not.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah. I like that investigation process,
Yeah.
by the way. I love trying to
It can be
figure that
fun.
out.
That's right.
I mean,
Absolutely.
If I think something's going on, I'm like, okay, I got a checklist of things. I'm going to look at this. I'm going to look at this. I'm going to mark this. I'm going to look at this. I mean, I like figuring it out.
Yeah. Well, and I think just as we're sitting here doing the podcast, it's investigative work being done.
Yeah.
You're asking questions, you're getting information.
That's right.
So there we were doing some investigation. That's already there. So Dee, I know I can see that working with you every day, knowing that whatever investigation needs to be done, you're going to be the one to do it.
You're going to get to the bottom of this.
That's right.
For sure. For sure. Another tip we want to talk about is, doing these annual checkups. Is there a certain time? I mean, obviously before we get into the busy season, that I would imagine that's the time we need to be, when we're getting into early spring, maybe even before that we're hitting that annual checkup.
Sure. And that's what we've been, we kind of tell folks, even when we get into January, we've already created that mindset. We're already trying to let consumers know if they're reaching out to us, it's never too early to prep, because being in Southeast Georgia, you never know what kind of weather you're going to be getting. And so, I think there was some forecast that said we were going to have a good bit more winter. Well, if today's any indication of that, I don't think that's going to happen.
It might not happen.
I mean, we've had some 80-degree temperatures, and we're late February, early March, right? So right now, I would tell you, we start setting the tone early, especially by the 1st of February, we're already telling people to commit to, okay, let's start doing those inspections. Let's check to make sure our filter media is good. Let's make sure that we don't have any leaks. One other thing I like to point out as well, that's a vital piece or vital tool to good water care is the pressure gauge. I can't emphasize that enough, knowing that small, inexpensive device is so crucial to good, proper water care, because what it does, it tells you when it's time to either clean the filter or to backwash the filter, or to, whenever it's time to implement those cleaning processes, it does that. So pressure gauge, absolutely, it's time to inspect that as well when we're going through those inspections starting now. Now's the time. So because typically whatever you do now is going to last you throughout the year, and it may last you for several years. But for the most part, now's the time to do the checkups.
Yeah, absolutely. And I was thinking about one of our neighbors that with the checkup with their pool. I mean, he would do this November, December, where he would say, okay, I'm going to do a maintenance checkup list, and then I'm also going to do my product kind of checkup list. Like, what do I need to go into Pride Pools and get to get ready for the season? And boom, boom, would just have those two lists. Sure. I mean, what a great way to be able to look at everything.
That's right. And I think as you learn more about your pool, as you've had it longer, once you become more of a seasoned pool owner or veteran pool owner, so to speak, after a year or two, or whatever the case is, you kind of get an idea that what works best for you. You may say, yep, my backyard, I've got these trees, and this is what I've been able to experience over the past year or two, last couple summers. And now you're right. If you were coming into the back end of a season, into the fall, into the winter, you're kind of getting yourself prepped for, not say winterization, but the slowdown. And obviously water temperatures are so much cooler. Doesn't require much effort, not near the volume of chemical, because once that water temperature, if we've talked before in the past, once it gets below 70, the volatility is pretty much out of the water. So even though things can happen, it showing up is not going to be present because that water temperature's gotten cooler and you're not going to see it. That's the reason why as we transition into the spring, those quick warm days that we're having, and And as they come pretty quick and you get them in multiple days, you'll be shocked at how fast that water warms up. As it warms up, it can catch you off guard, because if you just say if we got a little lazy and we haven't done anything for 30, 45 days, maybe even 60 days to the pool, so to speak, other than maybe empty the baskets and keep things in order. If we've kind of neglected to put any chemical or whatever in the pool, what's going to happen is once those temperatures hit those 80s and it's there for a couple of days, guess what? That water temperature is coming with it, and it'll get there quickly. And once it does, now the water's more volatile, right? So it's now getting over that 70-degree mark. And so we want to make sure we're keeping our thumb on that, because the last thing you want to do is wake up March the 31st or April 30th or whenever, and you say in yourself, well, it's been really cool outside, and all of a sudden, in a few days, it's been warm, and you wake up to a green pool one day, and you'll say, oh my gosh, it turned green overnight.
Chemistry totally changed.
Yeah, well,
just
guess
in those
what?
warm days.
I promise you it didn't change overnight.
Yeah.
It never changes overnight, because typical, that's 30 days in the making. That's 2 weeks in the making or whatever. That water temperature drives everything. So again, we want people to be prepared as the water temperatures rise, so that they don't let it get away from them. And that's, even if they're the DIYers, they are going to make sure they keep that water looking good year round.
Yeah.
And the only way to do that is just kind of keep your thumb on it. No big deal.
Absolutely. Last thing I want to talk about before we wrap up is how much I absolutely love, maybe you went into Pride Pools and you've got that list of products that you're using and you're getting, I need this, I need this. I love the fact that you can go back and say, what did I use last season? Because I can't remember what I used, and you've got it covered at Pride Pools.
Yeah,
got that covered.
Glad you segued into that, because the good news is that when you bring us a water analysis to test for your pool or spa, we keep a history, and it goes back pretty far from day one. We're looking at whatever your water analysis looked like 10 years ago versus what it looks like this morning, if you brought it in, whatever the case is. And we can look and see patterns. We can look at things, and we know what you've been able to do in the past from the chemicals you purchased to address any things that may need to be addressed. So we've got a full history of the analysis itself and what was even purchased or picked up at the same time, so that it's easy for us to say, yeah, this is what you have typically done in the past, Mrs. Jones. This is probably what we need to go with. Or, history tends to repeat itself, right? In a lot of cases, and this is no different. Unless you've had some major changes to the environment that your pool is in, right? Other than that, you're going to be pretty much, and that's the good news, is you can consistently do the same thing. However, what is the biggest change is either a lack of or the increase of a bather load will change that dynamic. I can't emphasize that enough to make sure people realize that testing that water is vital, because of the dynamics and the things that happen to it that you don't even realize that are happening to it, right? So again, take the time, get that water tested, bring us a good, clean sample, and we'll keep the history. So that way in the future, we know what is needed to get you off and running and to maintain it throughout the year.
Yeah, well, we always want you to be ready. That's why we're talking about this.
That's
and
right.
It's a great conversation for sure. And of course, we've got links and information in the show notes of this episode. If you want to continue that conversation, pick up the phone and call the experts at Pride Pools, because they can answer all those questions. Marshall, I'm ready to get in the pool just after this conversation. So
That's right. We want to get Cannonball ready. So here we go. And I'm ready to go with you. So always a pleasure to sit down with you and talk shop. And so thank you for having the time.
Absolutely. It's been fun. Thank you.
Let the celebrations continue. The team at Pride Pools is excited to give you a huge anniversary special. Actually, 3 of them. To celebrate 50 years, you can get up to $10,000 in savings on 3 anniversary fiberglass pools. There are 3 sizes to choose from: the backyard size, the family size, and the fun size. How cool is that? So stop by the Claxton or Savannah locations of Pride Pools or go to pridepools.com for more information. Thanks for listening. Come by and meet your local pool and spa experts in Claxton on Highway 280 West or in Savannah on Gateway Boulevard South, or go to pridepools.com. If you love backyard family fun as much as we do, be sure to give us a rating and review and subscribe or follow on your favorite podcast platform so you never miss an episode. And if you have a question or topic you'd love for us to cover, drop us an email, info@pridepools.com, or tap the links for Facebook or Instagram in the show notes of this episode. We'd love to hear from you. Now let's go make a splash and have some backyard family fun.